This is Nathan with On the Drift, and just wanted to do a quick video tonight on some of the basics of metal detecting. When I first started this, there's so much information out. So I wanted just to kind of come on and share some of the things that I'm learning and the things that I've learned that I hope will help you in your journey as you get into metal detecting if this is a new hobby for you. So a couple of things that I think are important as we talk about the basics of metal detecting. It starts around the machine, and there's so much talk about the different machines and the reviews of the machines and which machine is the best. And there's always that discussion, and everybody obviously wants the best that they can get within their budget. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we expect from a detector and where the differences might be in the different detectors and in the different things, and just all the analysis and all the reviews and all the comparisons. So really, when it comes to metal detecting, what we're asking the machine to do is really a simple thing. And the machine, we're asking all these machines, whatever machine you're looking at, whatever detector, we're asking them to do the same things. And it breaks down into a pretty basic combination of things. And there's not that many of them. So these are not in any particular order. But the first thing that we're looking for our detector to do is we're looking for it to discriminate. We're looking for the machine to tell us what different types of metals are in the ground and to make a distinction between those different types of metals. So when we're waving and swinging our detectors, what we're really trying to do in its most basic form is we're asking the detector to give us a discrimination of the different metals that are in the ground, to tell us what metal we're swinging over, and to be able to discriminate between the various different metals that might be in the ground so that we can know what it is that we're going to be digging, right? That's the basics of it. So we're looking for it to give us discrimination, to divide up the different types of metals that are in the ground. The second thing that we're looking for is we're looking for separation. And what I mean by that is it's one thing to know what metal is in the ground. It's another thing for it to be able to differentiate when there are multiple metals in the same area. So when your coil is being swung over something, not only is it able to tell us what's there, but it's able to separate and give us that tone that we're looking for. So that's kind of the big thing. And that's when we're really comparing machines, that's kind of what we're comparing, is its ability to discriminate and give us the metal that's being, brought back up from the signals that are being put into the ground, come back up, and to discriminate and tell us what that is. And then to separate the sounds. So when there's multiple things happening, to be able to give us a separation and give us a unique target within the midst of that. Probably the third biggest thing. So we have discrimination and separation. And then probably the third biggest thing that we're looking for is depth. So we want separation, we want discrimination, but we also want depth. And that's kind of the big thing I feel like right now that's getting talked a lot about, is how much power a machine has and how deep these machines can go in order to bring up the information that we're looking for. And there's various degrees of arguments and review and comparison in these things. But those are the three big areas that we're asking the machine to help us. Give us discrimination, give us separation, and give us depth. Now, how does the machine do that? The machine does that by giving us a couple of things. There's a couple of pieces to the puzzle that the machine is telling us. And it's telling us that obviously through the VDI or the TID, depending on which machine, what you're reading. But basically that's just that visual interpretation of what the machine thinks is down there. And that comes to us most of the time in the form of a number. So we're going to get an ID, or a visual determination or indicator of what is down in the ground. Okay, so that's the first piece of the puzzle that the machine is giving us. And then probably the bigger piece of that puzzle is it's giving us a sound. It's giving us tones. So it's relating to us what it thinks is down on the ground, and it's giving us that number, but it's also giving us a tone. And that piece of the puzzle between the target ID and the tone that it's giving us is going to be the big factor on, okay, this is what we're going to dig on, this is what we're going to do. So, but for all machines, that's what we're looking for. And now I will tell you, and from my experience, and I don't have as much as other people do, but these machines, these higher end machines especially, all do a wonderful job with these things. So they're giving us discrimination, they're giving us separation, they're giving us depth, and they're relaying that information back to us in the context of a number, a VDI or a TID, and in the tones. And that tone really becomes an important factor. And here's why. This is kind of the second part. So that's kind of what we're looking for with the machine. But the reality is that no matter which machine we're using, no matter how much money we've spent on it, there are always going to be variables in the process, okay? We see a lot of tests where people are just waving coins or waving their metals, you know, an air test, and we're getting that perfect sound with no interactivity, just my coil and the metal that I'm swinging. And then we're taking those target IDs and thinking that's what it's going to be. But that doesn't calculate the many variables that are going to be in the process. So, and this is really where the machine, I think the differentiation between the machines come in, is how they handle the variables that are in there. And every machine is going to be a little different when it comes to this. And I do have a conclusion when I get done with this discussion. But so what are the factors that are making a determination on depth? They're making a determination on separation. They're making a determination on discrimination, and that's altering the ID, and that's altering the tone that we're getting. So one of the big things is, and this doesn't get talked about, I don't think, near enough, especially with the air test, is the type of soil that you're in. Different soils will give you different information. Not only with the degree of what the soil is, how mineralized the soil is, how dense the soil is, and this is a big factor that I don't hear talked about a lot. In my limited experience of detecting and digging targets out, and I've dug a lot of targets out as much as I possibly can. I dig everything right now because I'm still learning and I want to know as much as I possibly can. But soil has such a huge impact, and not just the mineralization of the soil, but the constitution of the soil that's there, the thickness, the clay, different clay. If I've been out detecting, you know that the clay and the sand and different things will give you different reactions from your machine. It just has to. That machine is sending signals through that stuff, and that's altering the information that we're getting. Okay, so soil, and not only just the condition of the soil or the type of soil, but what's in the soil, the additives, things that are not occurring naturally in the soil, other metals, other things that might be contributing in that soil is all influencing our machine. Okay, so when we talk about comparison contrast, what type of soil are you in? What's happening in that area that you're detecting with the dirt that you're detecting in? And I can tell you this, that you can just travel just a few feet and your soil can change dramatically depending on where you're out hunting. And so that's a big factor. And we're asking these machines to give us that information, and the soil becomes a big contributor in that. So the soil, the content of the soil, as well as just the density of the soil, the type of soil that you're in. And then the other thing is the orientation of the object. This is going to have a factor on the information that machine is able to give us. What is the orientation? And now, most of us are out hunting coins or relics and things like that, and our machines are kind of dialed to find certain size things and certain weight things and certain shape things. And when the machine picks something up that is not of let's just say a flat orientation for a coin, the coin's just laying flat on the ground, it's perfect, which hardly ever happens. But the orientation of the objects are going to give very different tones, very different ID signatures when you're scanning those things. So I would love to say that metal detecting is a zero-sum game. We're going to swing over everything, and we want exactness from our machines. But there are just way too many variables that are influencing what the machine does. The machine's trying its best, but it can't overcome all the variables that are in between, the signal that's coming and what we're getting back. So the soil is a big thing. The orientation, the way that that object is laying and what's around it, and all of those things are going to be an influencer on what the machine is able to tell us, okay? And then the last part of this is not only that, but the size. The size, we've already talked about depth. Depth's going to have a huge influence on this, but the object of the thing. And that's one of the biggest things for me that I'm trying to learn in my early experiences with metal detecting is to listen to the tone, because the IDs can get thrown off. Your VDIs can get thrown off so much by the size of an object, okay? So I just dug up a giant old sardine can. It rang up on my Deos 2 as a 9899, and I just thought, man, this is great. I found something really spectacular, but it was a sardine can, and it was, maybe 6-7 inches in the ground. The tone was really good. It didn't sound overly big to me, so I thought I had something special. But the size of an object is always going to be a big influence. So these are things that the machine is giving us information on, and the IDs based on the soil, the content of the soil, the type of soil that we're in, the orientation of that object that's in there, and then the size of the object are all making a determination in what we get back through the tones. And this is where IDs are just a very small piece of the puzzle in what the machine is telling us. And we go so much on trying to figure out what the IDs are, but that is just kind of the starting point. It's kind of a basis that we go from, because all of these factors are going to change those numbers and maybe give us false numbers on those things. So the biggest thing that we can learn on our machine is to understand and try to interpret the tones. That becomes the big thing for us. And that's a whole nother video in talking about that. So a couple of things that I want to end this video with. So we've talked about what we're expecting from the machine and what the machine's trying to do. It's trying to discriminate, it's trying to separate, it's trying to give us depth, okay? It's doing that through that VDI or TID and the tones that we're getting. But the factors, the soil, the content of the soil, the type of the soil, the orientation of the object, and the size of the object are all having factors on what it's giving us, okay? So the first thing that I want to tell you, the first conclusion that I have learned in my short metal detecting experience is this: dig, 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 dig. Nobody wants to sit around and dig junk up all day, but digging out the signals, digging out those tones is the first key for us understanding the information that machine is trying to give us, okay? That's never going to happen unless we dig a lot of targets. And you can watch the YouTubes of some of the live digs. I enjoy those ones. Time and time again, people that have 20, 30 years experience in metal detecting and sometimes years of experience with that particular machine are still fooled by the tones and by the ID that machine is giving them. So we have to dig things out, okay? In my mind, and I have this as a note to myself when I'm out hunting, if there's any question, dig, 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 okay? When I'm out fishing, one of our things that we say when we're out fly fishing is set it or regret it. And I can tell you the same thing is true when you're out hunting and metal detecting. Either dig it or you're going to be sorry. You'll never know what's there. So dig, 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 and dig. Get in there and make those determinations and really try to learn what that machine is telling you, and keep in mind those factors, the soil factors, the orientation factors, the size factors. Those are going to be the things that help you have successful treasure hunts. And then the last thing, the last piece of this is learn your machine. And I can't emphasize this enough. I think this is all the talk about the different machines and the best machines, and is that the biggest factor that I think that we can do to change our success in hunting is learn the machine. Learn the machine. Most of these machines today are phenomenal at discrimination, at separation, at depth. But we help the machine by the variables, by trying to dial in that machine for the variables that we're seeing in the area that we're hunting. And that doesn't happen until we really start to understand the nuances of each machine. And I started with a Legend, the Nocta Legend, and then because it broke down, I had to send it in, ended up with a Deos 2. And I can tell you those machines are drastically different machines and both phenomenal machines. But how they do what they do is very different. And getting them dialed in is a different process. They're very unique. And I think within the machines, just like within cars, there's uniqueness within each machine, not just each type of machine, but each Deos 2 probably has its own uniqueness about it. So learn your particular machine, spend time with that, learn your tones, dig those things out, learn your settings as you go, and I think that'll lead you to successful hunting. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you can, like, subscribe to my videos. Hopefully this is helpful to you. This is something that I wished I would have heard when I started out so I could have some understanding of what is actually happening when I'm swinging my coil over my target zone.